we are kicking off our 2025 Grammy Award coverage. The Grammys are taking place February 2nd, and we are dropping the series of category-based predictions, as well as some Grammy history videos as we near the date of the ceremony. In this video, we are tackling the Producer of the Year non-classical category. But before we do, likes and subscribes, deeply appreciated, always helpful. Now, Producer of the Year is a category that's been around since 1975. The first winner in this category was the great Tom Bell, who just passed away a couple of years ago. Tom Bell won this in 1975, but keep in mind, this was towards the end of the prime of his production reign. So this win would have been around the time he was producing for the Spinners. The Spinners were the third of the three groups that he produced for in the prime of his production reign. So before that, he was producing hits for the Delphonics and then the Stylistics. So if this category existed before 1975, I think Tom Bell would have won more than one of these awards, but as it stands, he is the first ever winner of the Producer of the Year Grammy. Now, the most wins in this category goes to Babyface, the legendary 80s, 90s producer. And if you were around in the 90s, this guy just dominated. He won like 3 Producer of the Year awards in a row in the mid to late 90s, like 95 through 97. But Babyface was producing for TLC, Boyz II Men, his own solo stuff, so many different artists. If you look at his track record, it would blow your mind how many hits for how many artists he produced over the years. And also song wrote. Babyface is one of the most significant musical figures of the past several decades. So he's got the most wins in this category with 4 wins. One of those 4 wins was a co-win with him and L.A. Reid. LaFace, the record label, LaFace, L.A. Reid, Babyface. But yeah, Babyface with the most wins, 4. And then there's a 4-way tie with 3 wins. That's David Foster, the late Quincy Jones, who just passed away a few months ago. Legendary music titan. It's not just the production work. I mean, if you go back to like the 50s, this guy was a jazz arranger for some of the biggest names in the 50s and 60s jazz, even 40s, 50s, and 60s jazz. Look up Quincy Jones. I actually recently did a video that kind of looks at the earlier stages, the 50s, 60s, 40s, 70s, that part of his career, before he started working with Michael Jackson on those 3 albums, Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad. So Quincy Jones has 3 wins, 2 solo and then 1 alongside Michael Jackson. And then Pharrell Williams has 3, 2 solo and then 1 as one half of the Neptunes. Pharrell Williams, obviously one of the best producers of this modern era. And then the 4th person who's now joined that 4-way tie now for second place with 3 awards is Jack Antonoff. He's known for being Taylor Swift's producer in most of her recent albums. He's been producing the best work from Lana Del Rey. He's produced albums for St. Vincent, Sia. Jack Antonoff is such a heavy hitter. I mean, he got his start with Fun. I mean, he has his own solo project called Bleachers, but remember the band Fun with the song We Are Young? Yeah, that was Jack Antonoff's band, and he wrote and produced that. And Jack Antonoff won all 3 of his awards just back to back to back in the most recent year. So he's still technically the reigning winner. He's not nominated this year, but in the last 3 Grammys, he won back to back to back Producer of the Year awards. And I actually thought that he should have won one before that. I thought that he should have won for the work that he did on Lana Del Rey's Norman effing Rockwell album, but he didn't win it that year. But again, now he's tied for second place with David Foster, Quincy Jones, and Pharrell Williams. And then you've got a 4-way tie with 2 awards. The most nominations in this category belong to Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. They produced for tons of different artists, but the signature artist that they pretty much work with throughout that whole artist career is Janet Jackson. So all of the Janet Jackson hits, you could pretty much chalk those up production and songwriting wise to Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, but they wrote for several others, 80s, 90s. They've got a very storied career. So they are far and away the leader in nominations with 11, to the point where second place has 4 fewer nominations. So you go from 11 with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis to 7 nominations for David Foster and Quincy Jones, and then 6 nominations for Babyface, and then there's a 5-way tie with 5 nominations. So again, most wins goes to Babyface with 4, and most nominations, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis with 11. Now let's get into this year's nominees. We've got Alissia, who's being nominated nominated for the first time, and she actually stands a chance at becoming the first woman to win this award. We've had a few nominations over the years. Linda Perry is the most recent nominee in this category, but we've never had a woman win this award. And I've often found it interesting that on the highest level over the years, there hasn't been as much, woman participation, or at least woman opportunity in terms of getting those high placements in production credits for some of the biggest works. Like, you've got a lot of women songwriters. Songwriter of the Year is a new category. If that was a category for the decades prior, you would have had tons of women winning those awards. You would have probably gotten Linda Creed around the time Tom Bell was winning for Producer of the Year. You might have gotten his lyricist Linda Creed winning the award. You might have gotten Diane Warren, who's written some of the biggest hits in modern pop history. She would have probably won Songwriter of the Year multiple times. But for Producer of the Year, you haven't had as many signature female producers, and I think that that's starting to change. You're starting to see a lot more women participation, and if you look through the credits in different albums and their production, you're starting to see a lot more women DJ/producers involved in those projects. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot more nominations, but again, Alissia has a chance of becoming the first winner in this category. Then you've got Durance D-Mile Emile II. D-Mile, he's songwritten and produced for Bruno Mars and the Bruno Mars Silk Sonic project, and for the artist Her. This is actually D-Mile's third nomination in this category. Then you've got Ian Fitchuk, whose biggest work this year, he produced the song Amen for Beyonce, he produced Maggie Rogers' album, and he produced Casey Musgraves' album. So he produced entire albums for Casey Musgraves and Maggie Rogers. He produced a Beyonce track. He's produced, songs for Still Woozy, Leon Bridges, a couple songs from that One Love, Bob Marley biopic. So Ian Fitchuk is nominated, and this is his first nomination. Then you've got Mustard, aka DJ Mustard, aka Mustard, on that new Kendrick Lamar song TV Off from his latest album GNX. This is Mustard's first nomination, which is interesting because Mustard's got tons of hits over the years. He really started making a name being YG's chief producer, but since that he's been working with so many different artists over the years. But yeah, Mustard nominated this year primarily for his work on Not Like Us, one of the biggest songs of the year. That was pretty much the showstopper, nail in the coffin Kendrick Lamar diss track towards Drake, Not Like Us, which I think needs to win either Song of the Year or Record of the Year this year. That song cannot get shut out of this Grammys. It's nominated for both Song of the Year and Record of the Year. You didn't get any bigger than Not Like Us. That song was absolutely everywhere, and in the context of being well into the midst of that epic rap battle, yeah, Not Like Us was huge. And you've got the producer Mustard nominated here, and then you've got Dan Nigro, who's mostly known as being Olivia Rodrigo's producer. Now, Olivia Rodrigo dropped her Guts album last year, and by last year I actually mean 2023, but she dropped a few songs on a deluxe version of Guts. So she's got some extra songs like So American and Stranger and a few others, but Dan Nigro produced those, but he's also being considered because he produced the album for Chappell Roan, who is up for Best New Artist, as well as the other 3 major categories. So Chappell Roan is up for all 4 major categories: Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Album of the Year, and Best New Artist. Again, Dan Nigro produced her album. Yeah, she had a mega 2024, and her producer, Dan Nigro, is being nominated in this category for the second time. So the only multiple nominees who've been nominated multiple times in this group are D-Mile and Dan Nigro. Now, who do I think is going to win this award? Again, it would be history in the making if Alissia wins this award. I think that her production credits are going to build over time, and she's got she's a multi-instrumentalist, she's a DJ, and she's actually on the boards. Some of the earlier female nominees for Producer of the Year were co-nominees like Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, but they were partially songwriting. They were obviously performing the songs, and they had stature that was so big that they also get production credits on a lot of their work. But I don't picture them at the time that those songs were recorded really working the boards in a way that Pharrell Williams would, or an instrumentalist, somebody who's actually playing the music. Alissia actually plays the music. So again, she's a DJ, multi-instrumentalist, and producer. So it would be cool if history was made here with her winning, but I think that it really comes down to D-Mile, again, this is his third nomination. Mustard, and you know that song TV Off, where Kendrick Lamar pretty much gives Mustard the greatest shout out you could ask for from a rapper with that Mustard, which has kind of become its own meme. That might, you know, reputation wise, put Mustard even further over the top. Again, he also produced Not Like Us. So I think he's got a real shot at winning this one, but I think that this one is Dan Nigro's to lose. I think that this one, if I had to pick a prediction, which, I mean, that's what this video is about, I'm gonna go with Dan Nigro here because Chappell Roan had that big of a year. Now, Kendrick Lamar had a monster year, and again, towards the end of the year, he released that GNX album, but the GNX album would be eligible for next year's Grammys, not this coming Grammys, because it was outside of the time range of eligibility. So those songs, those couple of songs from GNX that Mustard produced, those can't be considered here. TV Off, for instance. So outside of that, he had like a song that he produced with Travis Scott, Parking Lot. He had his own album, Faith of a Mustard Seed, and then he obviously had Not Like Us. But as big as that single was, and it was huge, it was monster. It's, I mean, probably Mustard's biggest hit. Dan Nigro producing the entire album for Chappell Roan, which again is up for album of the year, as well as producing those, you know, deluxe guts songs for Olivia Rodrigo. I think that Dan Nigro is going to win this one over Mustard, Ian Fitchuk, D-Mile, and Alissia. If I had to bet, I'm going with Dan Nigro here. Again, this is his second nomination. I think he wins this one. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this category, Producer of the Year. Take a look at the nominees. And by the way, this is D-Mile's third straight nomination. So he was nominated in 2023's Grammys, 2024, and now in 2025. Third nomination in a row. So I wouldn't be surprised if he won it. In fact, if Dan Nigro doesn't win it, I would go with Mustard as being the second most likely, and then D-Mile. D-Mile, you know, there weren't any like her album releases or Bruno Mars album releases. So he's being nominated this year for his work with Lucky Day, as well as producing the Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars single, Die With a Smile, which is actually up for Song of the Year this year. So that's what D-Mile's being nominated this year for. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Dan Nigro winning this Producer of the Year award. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. I'm Woog, thanks for tuning in.